Hi, Joe McLean here from CatholicHack.com with another traditional archery tip, the Samick Red Stag. A couple of weeks ago, I was out shooting my 1967 Fred Bear Grizzly recurve, 58 inches tip to tip, 55-pound draw, 28 inches, and it threw a splinter on the back of the bow from right above the shelf all the way through the transition into the working part of the limb, and it was tragic. I mean, I was in like shock for several minutes just trying to figure out what happened. And that put me in a bad situation. You know, what do I do? Now I don't have a bow. What am I going to shoot? How much can I afford to buy another bow? And so I went online and I asked some guys for their opinions. And, you know, some guy said, hey, glue it back up. It'll probably shoot for you. So I did. I threw some 2-part epoxy on it and let it sit overnight for 24 hours, and then afterwards I took it out and shot it, and it was clear it wasn't the same. It wasn't going to be the same. So I decided I was going to hang it on the wall, revere it as a bow that I absolutely love. I love Bear bows. I mean, I love the history of Fred Bear. I love the look and the feel and the performance of the Bear bows. I mean, this bow is 48 years old. 48 years old. It shoots phenomenally well, or at least it did before I broke it. So, okay, so now I'm in a situation where I got to figure out what can I afford. I work full-time in Catholic ministry. I simply can't afford to buy a brand new, I can't spend $400 on a bow, for instance. I just don't have it. I'd love to. I'd love to buy a brand new Grizzly. That would be awesome. But I just don't have it. So $200 is about what I had to spend. So I went onto Facebook and said, if you only had $200, what bow would you buy? And I got tons of responses. Some guy said, I wouldn't buy anything. I would just save up my money and buy a better bow when I can afford it. Other guys said, buy a stave or a board from a hardware store and then go out and make your own. And some guys said, buy a Samick. Now, I've already owned a Samick. I bought a Samick Sage, a 55-pound takedown, a few years back, and I gave that bow to my 17-year-old son Stephen when I got the Bear bow. Now the Samick Sage, about $130. It shoots really well for that price point. Now it is not the best looking bow. It's not very pretty, and it's really heavy, but it shoots good for its price point. It's hard to argue with that. If you're trying to get into traditional archery and you don't want to invest a lot because you don't know how much you're going to love it, that's a great way to go. But Samick has tons of other bows that they offer now, and the Red Stag is one of them. So I looked at their lineup of bows. I went to Three Rivers Archery first, and unfortunately Three Rivers Archery doesn't carry the Red Stag. They instead carry the Deer Slayer, I think it's called. It's either Deer Slayer or Deer Master, I forget which, but it's a takedown bow, and they didn't have the heavier pound limbs that I was after. The more pounds, the merrier for me. And so I looked at some other websites like Lancaster Archery, but they were back ordered on the Red Stag in the heavier poundage. So I ended up at Traditional Archery USA's website, and they had the 55-pound right-hand version in stock ready to ship. Now, the Red Stag does come in a longbow version as well as a recurve takedown version. So plenty of options there depending on what you fancy. I love the one-piece. For me, it's about beauty and performance simultaneously. So this was about roughly $200 shipped to my house from Connecticut, which is where Traditional Archery USA ships from. And I'm impressed. I have to be honest with you. I'm really impressed for this price point to get these looks and this styling at this price point delivered, is quite interesting. So the question is, what about the pros and cons and the performance factors? Well, let's talk about that, okay? Because I think ultimately, overall, my opinion is this is a good bow. And for the price point, you're going to get a lot for your money. It's visually very appealing, and it performs really well in the few times that I have shot it so far. And I think you'd be impressed. And ultimately, I think it's worthy to be in your collection. I'm going to be honest about that. Now, I also, having said that, do plan on saving my pennies up again and buying another bear bow. I'm a bear fan, so I definitely want another bear bow. But I'm not sure I can get away with having that vintage bow perform with me day after day after day, because I'm pretty rough. I shoot a lot, and I like to hold at anchor for several seconds before releasing my arrow, because for hunting that can be very, very handy. So therefore, I needed a brand new bow that can withstand some of that pressure. The question is, will this do the trick? We're going to find out. Here are some negatives about this bow that I think are important to understand. The finish quality, although is not bad at all, it's actually not bad at all. There were some slight blemishes that I noticed. For instance, there's a tool mark right there on the back side of the shelf that they never fixed. Not sure why, but you can clearly see there's a little tool mark there. There's some, some excess, looks like seal coat drops that dried on the backside of the belly, the belly of the handle here. Now, on the Sage, the Samick Sage, that's a very heavy bow. When I bought my bear, the difference was so night and day. This thing is like light and airy in your hand. That Sage is like a brick. I was afraid that this Red Stag would be the same, and it wasn't. This is not bad at all. It is just slightly heavier than my bear bow, but it is certainly lighter than my Sage, which is not bad. So there's that. It is a little heavier, but not terrible. Also, let me make a comparison for you. Let me line these two things up here. My bear, and my Red Stag. Look at the window here by the shelf. Look how much bigger the bear one is from the Red Stag. That to me is a slight downside. I'll tell you why. Now, if you are the type of shooter who shoots the gap method straight up and down, for instance, then this is going to get into your way from 15 yards and closer. And that could either pose a problem or it could work for you. It depends on your shot cycle, your style of shooting, etc., etc. But this will obscure your focusing on a single impact point. So if you're, like, say, an instinctive archer, at 15 yards and closer, you're probably going to be annoyed by that. But if you cant your bow, your sight picture opens up quite well and you'll be fine. So you can overcome it. But honestly, I was so used to my bear bow having that beautiful, big, huge sight window there that this threw me off at first. So that's a slight negative, but not too bad. Okay, so positive things. Once again, I'm really impressed overall with the quality of the finish at this price point. You know, $200 in the traditional archery world generally wouldn't get you very much. I mean, if you want a custom bow or a very nice, bear bow or some of the other manufacturers, you're going to spend a lot of money. You can certainly spend a lot of money. You know, $1,000 if you're really up there, but $500 is not asking too much. So at $200, it's tough to expect a lot, but frankly, I think this is not bad at all. I actually quite like the look and the styling. Some of these angles on the finish here are not bad at all. It shoots smooth. It draw to anchor is quite smooth. I haven't noticed any stacking at my anchor point of 29 inches. And release is quite well. Now, when I first opened the box, I threw my Dacron 14 strand continuous loop string on, and I just went out and started flinging arrows at the target. And it was noisy, and then I did some improvements. I put these little puff balls on, these little yarn balls. Yarn is super cheap. These are easy to make. Camo colors, nice for hunting, very easy to install. I put some Velcro on the tips to help with that string slap. I got some bear hair on my shelf and this pad there to protect my riser. And that quieted the bow down, I think, significantly. So now It's a much quieter bow. It's a smooth bow. It does very well. And with my brand new 3 Rivers Archery Traditional Only Easton arrows, spined at 400, they fly very nice off of this bow. By the way, I'm going to be doing a review of those arrows in a future video coming up very soon. So look for that. Quite nice. So once again, overall, this is a very good shooter. This is, for the price point, hard to beat, and I think it is going to impress me. At least I hope so. Now, I will also give one more caveat. In my research online, I did find a few cases of Samick's breaking because of substandard wood. You know, the wood was brittle or something like that. Now, I did not find very many of those cases, but a few did exist. And I can't tell. In one case, I think it was it was a takedown, and it broke right here, right where the screw, the bolt kept the limb on. It broke right there. And as far as I can tell, that archer got a replacement for that without a problem. I'm hoping that won't be the case, but only time will tell as I begin to stress this thing out and shoot it quite a bit. And if that does happen, trust me, I'll tell you all about it. But I'm thinking it's going to be fine. My Sage, my son's Sage, we've shot thousands of arrows through that bow, and it hasn't flinched. So I'm willing to bet that this will be the same case. There is a bit more meat to this handle as well compared to my bear bow, but it doesn't feel bad in the hand at all. And with this styling right here, you grip it quite well. It fits very nicely into the hand, feels very good, feels very solid, and shoots wonderfully. So I don't know if you can see that, but it's not really handwritten. Maybe the 55 part is, but the Red Stag isn't. That's printed on there. So overall, a very nice shooter for this price point. Very hard to beat at that. So there you go. The Samick Red Stag, 60 inches tip to tip, 55 pounds at 28 inches. Beautiful bow. If you have any experience with this Red Stag and you have any thing you can offer, please comment below. Let us know about that. If you're considering getting a Red Stag, let me know about it. I would love to hear what your experiences will be once you pick yours up. Also, I am thinking of replacing this string with a Fast Flight. Do you have any experience with Fast Flight and the Samick? Please let me know below what your thoughts are there. Fast Flight, you got to be careful. You could ruin a bow with Fast Flight, so you definitely want to know what you're doing there. And I've never owned a Fast Flight string, but I'm thinking about it because right now these arrows, just a guess on my part, but they're flying very fast off of this bow. I'm thinking 170-ish. Maybe. Now, I hope in a couple of weeks to go and test at a local archery shop that has a chronograph. But if I get a Fast Flight bow, that's going to make it even more, it's going to be faster, right? So power and speed on that arrow, that makes for a nice hunting bow situation. There you go. This is the Red Stag from Samick, 55 pounds at 28 inches. And I'm liking it, so I give you a thumbs up. I hope you'll try it. I hope you'll comment, like, and share in the videos. Share your knowledge. That's part of giving back to the community. And it's Easter, so happy Easter. Christ is risen. Praise God and amen. I'm praying for you that you shoot straight, and I hope that you pray for me that I shoot straight too. And until next time, may God richly bless you.